Hello, everyone. Very good evening. Today, we have the privilege to discuss with Ajay Pal Singh, who has bachelor's and master's in food science and technology from Guru Nanak Dev University in Amritsar. Then he moved to Canada, did his PhD from McGill University in Canada, which is one of the finest universities which has the courses for food science and technology. Now, I'll request Ajay Pal to please share some more about him.
Thank you, Gurtesh. As Gurtesh said, my name is Ajay Pal. I have completed my bachelor's degree in food science and technology, master's in food processing from Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar, and then I moved in 2008 to Montreal to complete my PhD in food science from McGill, where I worked on variety of food processing innovations. I got to know how food processing, food industry, how it really works within academia, within industry, within government point of view. So it was a very broad exposure. And from there on, like I I worked with a variety of institutions, varying from government like USDA, Canadian Food Inspection Agency, Health Canada, and then worked with the food industry as well in Montreal, in Philadelphia, in Alberta, and British Columbia as well. So I've been working from last 4 years or so. I've been working as a private consultant to food industry, where I've been helping industry with a variety of issues, including food, which are basically focused on food processing, how they can improvise the value, cost reduction, ingredient improvisation. So those kind of things I've been doing from last 4 years or so.
No, thank you very much, Ajay Pal. Now I'll request Parminder to take us from here.
Yeah, thank you so much, viewers. So Ajay Pal is my friend as well. So we live together in Montreal. So he have been working in food science, and because we as Punjabis, we come from a farming background. So in these countries, when we talk about like a lot of professions, so we basically two things come to our mind. One is like engineering, or the next one is a medicine. So, but as our roots are in the farming backgrounds, so today we will talk about like more what food science is and what type of prospects we have from the academia point of view, and also like what type of jobs we can go into. So I want Ajay Pal to explain what exactly, when we say like food science, what does that exactly means?
So food science is basically further process to agriculture or production. So how we would use science to further usage of our products which were grown in the fields, and then to improve those, further process those, further preserve those, and then they could be used for years and years to come, and again improvise their utility as well. In general, like if you have ever wondered how low fat cookies, they would taste as similar as to regular ones, how flavor of a new product is chosen, why apple they would turn brown on exposure to air, can plants taste same or even better than meat, or how shelf life of a food product is extended, then there's a good chance, and we all think of these things while while growing up, that how these things happen, that we do have an interest in food science. Next slide.
Okay. And also, like, for example, like this is a very good point. Like we see these type of things on a daily basis, like because eating is a part of our life. So like, for example, when you mention like why apple turns brown when it comes to the contact with air. So like, but like, for example, from the commercial point of view, when we go out to buy food, so how does that impact our choosing of what we are eating, and like what type of things we need to keep in mind when we look at this from the food science point of view?
So how, like in general, how we have been raised as humans, that everyone wants to eat fresh, but there's a, there are a lot of limitation. Like, there's a lot of produce being grown in California, and I live in Edmonton. There's almost very less produce. So a lot of produce that would come from California or Mexico to Edmonton. But while doing grocery shops, as our mother says, like, we would need some particular, like the food should not be soft. And I mean, these are the few basic points, but like in order to enhance their shelf life, they are stored at lower temperature, and they are and the harvesting of the food or the crop is done a level before they're fully harvest, so that they can they can grow, or they can further ripe during the storage or during the distribution process as well. So these kind of things, they extend the shelf life of the product. And when we go to the market, we of course we always look for fresh food. And means fresh is of course healthier, and there are no preservative involved in the fresher food. So this is what we look for when we go to the market.
So it means like when we look at the food, because that's part of a life on a day-to-day basis, we eat 3 times a day. So it means like when we look at the food, there's a lot of science behind that. So as I mentioned before, a lot of our Punjabis, so when they come to like these countries, like in the Western world, so we think about like as a engineering or a medicine as a career. But as you already mentioned, there's a lot of background behind the food as well. So in case if somebody wants like pursue food science as a career, so can you talk a little bit more about this?
Yeah, so it's a very good option. So when I started, I had no idea. While being in in India, I thought it's more like home economics, or maybe like food science. Maybe it might be I learned something to cooking, related to cooking or basics of cooking. But it's a science. It's a part of science where where we see how we can study the nature of the food. What is the physical, what are the chemical and what the microbiological reactions which are taking inside the food, or if the food is raw, if the food is ripe, what stage they should be harvested, and what are the causes of their deterioration, and what principles are used for further processing or food processing of the food, so that they can be utilized to extend their shelf life, and the real taste or the exact taste as it would as if we eat fresh. So there's a lot of plethora process, which plethora process and science which comes behind this. So as we see, more like apple juice, it says fresh apple juice. So the technology has been refined to keep that fresh, keep that cold, using a cold pasteurization process. So the or even if it is raw, not pasteurized, it is stored, and it is distributed in a supply chain in such a manner that the shelf life of the product is extended, and again it tastes very good as well. So basically, food technology is the application of selection, preservation, processing, packaging, distribution of the food. And what we want is the use of safe, nutritious and wholesome food.
So I suppose that means that there is a science that is related to food, and with technology, 12 months, any day, any terrain, that food can be preserved, that food can be used throughout the year. So both things are coming hand in hand.
Yes, totally. Like, when I was in India, people like, my relatives, they would often come from North America, and they would tell, oh, these things are available throughout the year. And I would always wonder, like, how they're managing the supply chain or distribution or packaging or those kind of things. But now things have been advanced in India as well. But like, after I joined my PhD, I was able to go through those processes hand in hand, by industrial visits and all, looking at the government and the academic institution as well. So how these processes, they would be used to to enhance the product value. Otherwise, if there's no science or no preservation method used, or even if no preservation methods are used, like if there's no technology used for any food product, the availability and the shelf life would diminish. And again, the product value in terms of taste, texture, the mouth feel, that would diminish as well. So
So
in general, if we eat an apple, we want a crunch, we want taste, we want either the raw taste or taste filled with sugar. So food science play a role in which they preserve that kind of condition throughout the supply chain, processing chain, and at the shelf of the market as well.
So,
And yeah.
yeah. So, as you're working as a scientist, so you have the expertise of both the science as well as working in the technology field. So, how does a day-to-day life of a food scientist look like?
So again, it can vary on which sector you are working. Like I've been working from last 4 years as a consultant. So basically, I work with small startups and help them in developing their process. But if I have to give you an example, that a food scientist, working in a food industry, their role, again, they may vary from research and development. They could be working in research and development, where they would develop various food and research about how to improvise those foods, or their value, how to simulate those similar kind of products. If they are in quality, then they would be looking more into how to make sure the quality standards of each product are being, while they are being manufactured, they are being met. So the the public get the best quality food product. And if they are in production, again, they'll be working hand in hand with the quality department to ensure that the food product is produced by meeting the best standards of the industry, and we get the best food product out of the industry. And anything, any deviation is being noted, and then that product is taken care of within the industry. So these are few typical scenarios which would which one would see during if they are working as a food scientist.
And also, Ajapal, I have seen, like, there's a lot of kind of like a trend change I have seen in the past few years. People are going towards people are going vegan. So, and they have because even though they have been eating meat in the past, so there have been a trend change, or a culture change, I would say. But the people who have become vegan, but they still want to keep those taste that they had from the previous culture they came from, which is eating meat. So we have seen, for example, there are a lot of restaurants around here. For example, there are Veggie Grill and whatnot. So they have that vegan products, which people say that they actually taste like meat. So can you talk about what this culture change is, and how food industry or food scientists has contributed to this type of culture change, and still maintain the taste, the texture, and all those sort of things from exactly what people will eat as a meat? So can you talk about more on this?
Sure, Pramin, that's a very good question. So no, basically I came from a vegetarian family, so nobody in my family eat meat. But when I came in here to North America, I saw most of the product, or most of the items available on menu are meat eaters. But about last 5 years or so, there have been a lot of companies, especially companies working in San Francisco, Impossible Food, Beyond Meat, and other companies in US like Maple Leaf Food, Amy's Kitchen, Sunfat, Corn. So they've been focusing especially on providing an alternative which is very similar in terms of texture, mouthfeel, taste, crunch, everything they could achieve in terms of simulating a meat patty. So meat patty was one of the first product that was launched, and it was launched through McDonald's, KFC, I think Burger King, and all. Now all of those restaurants, they have this this vegetarian or this vegan item as well. So there's a lot of science behind that. In order, like in a when they wanted to simulate the product, they had to take care of a number of factors. So what they are using is in general protein from peas, soy. So we know that from even in India we used to eat soy vadiya as a source of protein. If you're a vegetarian. So soy being a prime, and now like a lot of protein isolation from the pea based protein as well. So they've been those proteins, they have been helping, or they've been helping to simulate a texture or flavor or a mouthfeel very similar to that of meat, meat patties, or burgers, or pork or beef products. So still, like I would say there are only few items developed at this point, but all these industries, they are working very hard, and they are using all modern techniques, all modern innovation available in their reach and above their reach to work on alternative plant-based product, which are very similar. But means beyond that, they are developing to the taste of vegan person. What they are also doing is they want to reduce the CO2 emissions.
Yeah.
They also want to reduce greenhouse gases, coming from the CO2 emission. And again, this is giving back to the community as well. So what they want to reduce is the production of animals for meat. So if that could be handled, we can certainly reset our clock back in terms of the greenhouse emission. So this is the overall a mission of those companies, and they are working to develop alternative plant-based meat-based protein.
Yeah.
So yeah, more about food science. Like even when I started, it's not home economics, it's not only nutrition, it's not only cooking. There's a lot of science. Whether it like all the science student, they would easily understand. There are a lot of biological chemical factors, chemical reaction taking place in the food. That is it developing to control those reactions, and to use for our benefit, to so that how the food could be preserved and its shelf life could be extended, and instead of sending that food to the waste bin, we are using that, or we are consuming that. So this is more like food science.
So yeah, so usually like when people think about like, okay, a person is working in like a food industry, so one thing that usually comes into mind that, okay, he might be a cook, or or he might be like working at a restaurant or something. So this food science is a lot of like technology or the science behind the scene which is happening, which have a lot of prospect from the career point of view.
Sure.
So can you talk about like why a person should be interested, or why our generation should invest more into looking into the food science in this type of career field?
Yeah, I mean, as you earlier said, like we are coming from a farming background, and our fathers and forefathers, if they were using food processing up to some extent, but now with we have moved into Western countries, and what we could use further is we could if we are using food science as a career option, we would be extended their more like a further processing of their farm product. So what a farmer can do is like produce a very good quality food product, and then basically it's in the hand of food scientists how they would develop a method, or how they would make further product, so that those farm products, they have a further processing value, and it generate a lot of revenue for industry, a lot of jobs for people, and in general it makes a lot of convenience food as well. So, and again, food science, it's a second biggest manufacturing area. There are a lot of jobs in the food science, and in a recent report, USDA reported that by 2025, university they'll not have enough people graduating from the food science cadre, and to meet the demand. So now, that being said, lot of people in food industry, they are from either from agriculture or bioresource or all other factors, because that's the the supply and demand is not being met. So and it's very easy, like it's relatively very easy to get a job after a food science degree.
And also, I think like as we came from agriculture background, and as you said, like our forefathers has been working in the food industry, producing the food. But
Yes.
like as you mentioned, like for example, like we used to have like this cauliflower flower, which is a gobi, only in the winter season. And
Yes.
over here we can see the same food, or the food across like all 12 months. So I think like if even from doing the food science or the food technology degrees from these countries would also help us giving back to our community back in Punjab as well, because we can educate more farmers there to how to process food so that they can get more value out of their produce. Because we know even though there's like a farmer protest going on just to maintain the baseline prices for the produce that they're making. But the one thing that is missing in Punjab itself is also like the food processing, which will increase the value of the produce, because the processed food will always bring more money to the farmers if they start doing those like basic stuff, and if they can set up those infrastructure which as data food scientists can help them build. So I think
Yeah.
it's a good giving back to our community in Punjab as well. It can be a good asset as well.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you, Parminder. And I mean, till I was there in Punjab till 2008, and there were very limited options to pursue your career in food science and food processing, for especially. So now there are more options. There are more people. There are more people from village background. They have gone to colleges, universities. So they have opened up avenues and industries so that they can further process their product. But I live in Alberta. What I see here is, I mean, you will see in any North American county that there are farmer markets, and farmers at their baseline price in there, and they have their further processed product as well, and they can now, it's very easy to sell through like online retail, all the ventures, whether it be Walmart, Amazon. As long as your food is processed and packed properly as per standards, you can always sell those. But again, educating our farmers, our people about those opportunities is again giving back to the community. And as our community, if they are more educated in food science, how to implement those, it'll be a very big step, or
Yeah, no,
very big help into the community as well.
yeah, no, Ajapal, as you mentioned, now we are living in a global world. Like Central Valley, we have the abundance of almonds, and it is being shipped throughout the globe. And
Yes.
like you are in the area where it's very cold, Alberta, so certain things they do not produce, they have to come from somewhere in the world.
Yes.
So now, after more understanding, it seems like this field is generating more and more interest, and it has a good potential for a student who wants to enter into stream. So what are the opportunities, what kinds of compensations does this field gives to the students who wants to get the job opportunities after completing their education, and what kinds of institutes are there which provide the education in food science and technology?
Yeah, so the food science, it's a very lucrative food. So, in like, this is some previous data, but, average salary, it can range from low 50s to 100,000, but starting are 50,000 and around. And as you gain more experience in the industry, like, there are opportunities for 100,000 plus easily to grab into the food industry. And to become a food scientist, you would have to do a college degree in a food science program. And a lot of universities in US and Canada, they offer that program. um, And beside that, you would have to participate in various internship with companies to gain hands-on experience with the government institution, how they make policies. So those are the kind of experiences you can gain during your degree as well. And in terms of where to do your degree, you can, University of California, Davis is as a most premier institute, renowned throughout the world for doing food science programs. And there are other institutions like Cal Poly, California State Polytechnic Pomona campus, Cornell, Washington State, Ohio State, Purdue, Georgia, Wisconsin, Maryland. And in Canada, again, McGill, University of British Columbia, University of Guelph, University of Alberta, University of Saskatchewan, and many other universities and colleges as well, which do offer food science program. And they help us and in generating revenue towards the community. And also in terms of preparing more food science graduates, which could contribute to the industry and contribute to the overall well-being of the nation as well, so that the food could be provided to each and everyone in the country.
Yeah, no, thank you, Ajipal. So you are product of one of the greatest university in Canada, McGill. So every university has its own specialization. So now, as we understand more about food science and technology, it seems like it is a vast field. It has lots of subjects in itself. So one can specialization in a different field, like it's a science as well, and now with the advancements in technology field. So just share us some about what kinds of subjects or what kinds of fields are available in this food science.
So there are a lot of or variety of options, I would say, like sky is the limit. So, varying from agriculture engineer to agronomist to baking to a chemical engineer, dietitian, farmer, again, food scientist, food stylist, USDA inspector, USDA scientist, microbiologist, plant manager, packaging managers, restaurant chef, quality assurance, technical writers, so professors. So like just plethora of options available. Again, if you want to go into academia, you would have to pursue further degrees like masters and PhD as well. Or if you want to do something novel about finding a certain way of way of processing food, then you would have to go to more like a research based setting in a university or in an institution like USDA or even in industry as well, Nestle and Campbell Food and many other industries, Kraft Heinz as well. They are acting as a base for research and development. And I mean, if we say in general, like production, research and development, packaging, engineering, acting as a policy maker for food scientists, food science. So these are the kind of career like which are mainly available. And I mean, again, there are further bifurcation into the in these careers as well.
Yeah.
Again, yeah.
Thanks, Ajapal. So as we have seen, like food industry is not just being a cook. There's a lot of job positions that a person or a student can go into. And as we have seen, the more trend especially in the Western world has been like focused on the food, because when we go to grocery stores or the big food marts, so we have seen like a lot of new food products that are coming in. And as Ajipal mentioned, the focus is to preserve the food to the maximum length it can be extended to, so that it can have a longer shelf life. And it can also a person can be involved in a lot of academia and also like in the research to develop more technologies to help back the community. It's a noble profession, I would say, along with earning money as well.
Yeah, sure, I totally agree. And these are the few of the companies where you could end up working after your degree. Waiting from especially in USA, it could be FDA, USDA, Starbucks, Kraft, Nestle, Kraft Heinz, So it's sky is the limit, I would say. There's so much opportunities available within the food science cadre.
No, thank you very much, Ajay. So yeah, so it's your future. Definitely make the most out of it. So one has to do research. There are lots of opportunities around us, so that one can learn from somebody like you who is around them. Ask questions, and after asking questions, find the interest. Which field interests you? Either it's engineering, a medicine field, or food science and technology. So including myself, and I'm sure most of our listeners would have learned more about food science. So, what food science is, how it's helping us in today's world, and with the increasing population as well as increasing global warming, some places which were producing something 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, they are not producing the same. And with the pesticides, all that. So, there are lots of things that one has to think about for the future. So, any parting words with us, Ajapal? So, what do you suggest our students? So, how they can do more research around this and find the questions, what to find the interest, so in which field they are interested in?
No, again, I have cited a few universities in there, and it's beyond that. Like there are a lot of universities and college. They can even do a 2 year program in food science as well. And again, they can reach out to me if they need any career related or profession related help, where they need guidance on which field they especially want to pursue. And what I believe in general is, it's the visibility of the community. As more and more people from the community, they would appear, or they would be a front line in food industry, agriculture, and I mean beyond our typical engineering and medical profession. That it would help emerge the image of the community as well. So those kind of things. And if any help is needed, I'm always available by email or phone. And they can always reach out to Parminder, and then he can provide my details, or those kind of things.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ajay. So I think our viewers would have learned a lot of stuff about the food science today, and especially for the students who are going to high school. So they would have learned like what other options they have apart from like from the education as well as the career point of view. So I think it's a very good opportunity to look into. And as I mentioned before, so uh, food is a part of our life every single day. So we cannot live without food. So if we can pursue our career into this and also help a community back in India, it
Sure.
will be a great help for us as well. And I think it's a noble profession. So yeah, again, if any of our viewers have any specific questions for Ajay, please do comment in the comment section below. So I will hook you guys up with Ajay directly, and you guys can have any questions answered, whatever you have about the career or the education point of view. So thank you so much, Ajay, for your time today.
Thank you, Parminder and Gurtej.
Thank you, Ajapal, and to our listeners. So please continue learning. For any questions, let us know. And for the future podcast, do share us with your opinions, what you want to listen. We'll see you next week in our next weekly podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, guys.